Hi, welcome back. We have come back again with some gap, and today I am going to share one email ID, teach4ias@gmail.com. teachforias@gmail.com. So on this email ID, whatever queries you have, you people can send me, and if you want material, then we can send you material through all this. And this will be the contact point for now, and you can send whatever queries you have. So today we will be discussing two things in this chapter, and those two things will be principles or pillars of corporate governance, and second thing will be benefits of corporate governance. So let us begin. First of all, we are going to discuss pillars or principles of corporate governance. Let me write it CG for the time being. So far in the previous videos, we had discussed the basics of corporate governance and all. You are familiar with everything. So now we are discussing what are the principles and pillars on which corporate governance is based. So first of all, we will be discussing board of directors, or board. So I told you board of directors are the most important people. They are at the top of the organization. It will be like board of directors are here, then below them there will be management. This whole structure I had shown you in the previous video. Then there will be management, then there will be shareholders and all. So we know that as is the leader, so will be the people. Whatever values, principles, ethics the people sitting at the top has, the same will be reflected in the organization as a whole. So that's why board of director and their role is very important in ensuring the corporate governance, because they set the target. Suppose there is a board of director and they send the message that we want profit only. We do not care for the nature, we do not care for the society, we do not care for the exploitation of people, we do not care for anything. What all we care is profit. So this philosophy of the board of directors will be reflected in their management and their day-to-day activities and their interaction with the shareholders. Everything will be guided by this philosophy. See, for example, suppose I give you example of Tata Group. When I take the name of Tata Group, you feel a positive vibe inside, because this organization has been serving the nation for over 100 years now. Almost 130 years they have been serving the nation, and they are very rich in their corporate social responsibilities, in the way they look at their business. For them, business is not just profit. For them, business is about everything: the profit, the nature, the society, the no exploitation, and the interest of the people. So at the center of their business idea is people. It is not the profit. Profit is somewhere at the margins, but the business and any development has to be for the people. So if it is not for the people, it is not for the right thing. So one or the other day it will have repercussions, different repercussions. So board of directors are very important because they set the goals, they set the target, they keep the process in the rolling, they control the management, they interact with the shareholders, they decide how much transparency, accountability has to be there. They decide everything. They are like the prime minister of their company. So they are very important. So first thing are the board of director or the board. Second most important thing is transparency and disclosure. We have seen in the case of IL and FS crisis, recently we had seen that all the audit reports, the adverse audit reports were not taken care of by the board of directors, and adverse information, the company was already losing on financial front and all, the financial condition was getting worse, but it was not communicated to the people. So people were not knowing, they kept investing, and one day the company share are falling down, they are showing that they are at the verge of collapse, and then there is trauma everywhere. So this kind of thing should not happen. Proper transparency and disclosure has to happen. Disclosure should be by voluntary as well as disclosure should be something statutory. Means by law they are forced to do the disclosure. See, for example, we have taken RTI, but RTI is not for the corporate. I am just giving you as an example. In the RTI, there is provision for voluntary disclosure as well, wherein the government organization has to put information on their website, publish it, share with the people, share with different stakeholders in different way, retain online everything. That they have to do voluntarily, but there are something given by the law RTI Act 2005 itself, that this much information you have to put on website and in different versions in different media, and that you have to do minimum. This is above what the statutory law provides for. So something like this should be transparency and disclosure also for the companies also. See, for example, we had taken Satyam scam. In Satyam scam also, the auditor was PricewaterhouseCoopers, and they are auditing, the financial situation is bad, but the proper communication is not there, and finally one day a scam happened and many millions of people lost their millions and millions of money. So this kind of thing can be avoided by transparency and disclosure. See, transparency and disclosure is like, one example I am telling you, there is something called boiling frog syndrome. Boiling frog syndrome. So what happens with the boiling frog syndrome, what it stands for? Suppose there is a frog. If we keep the frog in a bowl, suppose we keep this frog in a bowl of hot water, the frog jumps out of the bowl. Why? Because the water is hot, and this frog will detect that water is hot, and to save itself it will jump out of the bowl. But do another way. There is bowl, the water is initially cold and the frog is kept in this bowl, and if you slowly hit the bowl from down, the water temperature will slowly increase. But this frog who initially came in the cold water will not be able to detect the increase in temperature of the water over a period of time, and even when the water is becoming very hot, it will not understand, and it will be staying in the water itself, and it will die. So this is called boiling frog syndrome. You can use it in essay, in ethics, and in many answer writing also, this particular phrase, to illustrate something. So what does it stands for is, when the changes are happening slowly, slow changes are not visible, but if you hide the changes and suddenly you are showing everything, then you do not get an idea how much damage it has already done, and finally if slow changes are not detected, one day you will die, and you will die like anything, because you could not understand the change which was happening slowly. The same happened with Satyam scam, and that is why transparency disclosure is important. If slowly it is shown that our situation is getting bad, 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 all the stakeholders, like the shareholders, like the board of directors, management, they will be taking some step to stop the downfall and to maintain the stability. But if there is no transparency or disclosure, how would they come to know there is something going wrong? And suddenly what will happen when the problem is disproportionately big, which is beyond our ability to repair, then this irreparable problem will take your whole organization down, the way it happened with Satyam scam. Why I am telling Satyam scam is that the way we used to celebrate, we still celebrate our big tech giants like Infosys, Wipro and all, the same way Satyam Computer was rising as it was like the showpiece of India's IT sector industry. So that showpiece, due to poor corporate governance measure, has become a blot to the whole India's IT sector, and the investor lost confidence in India's IT sector and India's corporate governance like anything. That's why this example is so very important. So now what is the next measure for What is the next principle or pillar for the corporate governance? The third is accountability. See, nowadays we all know that be it the government sector or be it the private company, these things have become the keywords: transparency, accountability, responsibility, participation, blah blah blah. All these are buzzwords of today. So what accountability is? Suppose something goes wrong. Suppose, for example, I say my company has violated some environmental clearances. Suppose my company has violated some environmental clearances. Then the concept of accountability, little bit I am explaining it. The concept of accountability is like responsibility plus enforcement. Means first of all we have to find, if at all environmental clearance has been violated, first of all we have to find out who is responsible for this. Some general manager or some board of director or some officer, or those people who have carried out things on the ground. Maybe the board said something different, but the people on the ground, they cut more trees, they trafficked and they black marketed those extra trees that they have cut down. So we have to find out who is responsible for this environmental clearance violation. Then after that we will be doing enforcement. What does enforcement means? Suppose we will slap charges against them. If we see, can we prosecute them under IPC or CRPC or under Environmental Protection Act or under Forest Act. Then we will see under which act, or maybe under more than one act, this could be, this person or whosoever is accountable could be sued or action could be taken. So responsibility plus enforcement has to be there. Unless there is accountability, suppose I know that I can do a wrong and I can easily get away. So if I know that I am a big guy, board of director, manager or something, I violate the law. See, for example, this ongoing case of Mehul Choksi. Ongoing case of this Mehul Choksi guy, we know that Mehul Choksi, Nirav Modi, all these people have taken money from the banks and they have left the country. But now we are still struggling to take him from Dominica, Antigua, and he is still outside our control, outside our reach. So we have to ensure, if Mehul Choksi left the country, if Vijay Mallya left the country, who all are responsible for them, how they can be brought back to the country and they can be facing the legal measures or whatever, maybe some mortgage, some bank will take their possession, their property and all. So we have to fix accountability, that Mehul Choksi, you do a wrong, you can be away from the clutches of the law for a period of time, but one or the other day you will be made to face the law. So this instill the fear, and this fear, from this fear, it could act as deterrent for others. So this accountability is must. Accountability has to be there. Then what is the next principle? The next principle is sustainability. Sustainability. What is sustainability? Next topic in the corporate governance lecture will be corporate sustainability, but just for the time being I am introducing the term sustainability. Sustainability is something which fulfills the need of the present generation as well as the future generations to come. So that is called sustainability. See, for example, I am telling you two contrasting examples, Tata Group and Satyam Computers. Or for that matter, you can take anything, Nirav Modi, you can take Mehul Choksi case, whatever you wish. Just compare these two companies, their philosophy, their adherence or violation of the corporate governance norms and all. You will find that Tata has been continuing for over 125 years in the country. And still it is welcomed by people across the length and breadth of the country, and they are not seen with the lens of suspicion by anyone, be it government, be it regulatory body, be it the bureaucrats, be it the people, be it the consumer, be it the shareholders, be it the stakeholder, no one looks at them with any doubt in their mind. But when it comes, so that's why they have been able to continue for this many years, almost a century ago. But these companies, they started from here, they rised like anything, and after the rise they fell down, and now they are not in existence. So this is called sustainability. Their practices is sustainable, their practices is not sustainable. So corporate sustainability is very important. See, for example, we can take the case of Sterlite. We can take the case of Sterlite in Tamil Nadu, Tuticorin earlier it was. So what happened? They were not treating their waste and they were not abiding by the environmental norms. Suddenly what happened? The people are up in arms against them. The people protested and the protest went out of the control. Violence happened. Police killed people. People got killed by police, whichever way I do not know. People got killed and the issue was blown out of proportion, and this plant has to be shut down. This was shut down. So its sustainability was not there because it was not adhering to the principles of corporate governance. So another principle is sustainability. Next principle is minority stakeholders. Next principle is minority stakeholders. I told you in our corporate governance structure, last video only I showed you everything, how decision making and all happens. For most of the decision, we need majority like 51%, we need majority like 74%. We do not need majority of 100% people at any time. So what happens? Maybe the promoters and the financial agencies, promoter and financial agencies, maybe they will be owning say 88% in a stake. Then whenever they want to take decision, they can take any decision because they have the requisite majority with them. And suppose they misuse this majority and they take some reckless decision which harm the company in the long run, then company shareholder will be down, they will be losing money, people will be running away from the company. Then those people who are holding the remaining 12% of the stake, they are minority shareholders, they will lose everything because maybe whatever profit and all comes, they will be taking back, but all the losses they have to incur. So this is why the role of minority stakeholder is very important, and for them to safeguard their interest, we have amended the Companies Act 1956. We have amended the Companies Act 1956 in 2013, and we have strengthened their position by way of independent directors. By way of independent directors are there to safeguard their interest only. So the next principle would be, the next pillar of corporate governance would be fairness. What is meant by fair? Fairness is kind of, you can understand, justice. So fairness is like giving someone their due. Giving someone their due. So what someone deserves, if you give them, it is called fairness. Otherwise it will be unfair. So fairness is why it is important, because there are many stakeholders. Some of them has more information, some of them has more power, some of them has more resources, someone has more control over the process and the phenomena and things happening in the country, so in the company. So they can misuse their position for their own vested interest, and those who are less powerful, less resourceful, less equity holders, less amount of share and all, they will be at the harm. Just now we discussed the case of minority shareholders. So in that case there should be fairness, that every stakeholder shall be treated in a fair manner. I am giving you an example. Suppose the Coca-Cola industry. Suppose I am trying to establish a Coca-Cola industry, or say for any soft drink industry. Suppose I want to establish a soft drink industry, then what I have to ensure is that the soft drink industry should be, my unit should be making profit. At the same time, the water level where I am establishing my plant shall not go down very much to the detriment of the agriculture and other community living there. So what happens? I have to do, like what I can do, I can get an artificial tank, I can dig one artificial tank, and I can do rainwater harvesting, RWH. I can do rainwater harvesting, I can generate my own water, and then I can run my industry. Other possibility could be I can get one small canal kind of thing constructed for me, investing my own money, or if the government has already built, then I can take the water from the canal. I should not take the groundwater because groundwater is already low, so it can be detrimental for agriculture and the sustenance of the community. Say for example tribals, villagers, or the people who have been living living at that place for centuries. So I can do all these things, or what I can do is I can not draw the water from one borewell, I can keep the borewell at big areas, and then I can take the piped water supply, or I can take the piped water supply from the municipality for all my activities. So this is called the fairness. Like I am not looking after my profit, I am looking after the interest of the agriculture, I am looking after the interest of the nature, because if the groundwater table is coming down, then the trees and plants will not be growing in that area. So this way I am trying to manage everyone's interest, not my interest. So this is called fairness. I am treating everyone in a fair manner. Okay. The last but not the least principle or pillar of corporate governance is recognition of stakeholders and their rights. Recognition of stakeholders and their rights. So did you notice one thing? What we are talking here is stakeholders. We are not talking about shareholders alone. We have been talking here for the stakeholder. So we need to recognize and respect the rights of all the stakeholders. See, for example, I am giving you a Schedule 5 and a Schedule 6 area in our constitution. We have told that the land acquisition and the local industries has to take permit from the local community. They have to take permit from the local community. In the same way, PESA Act 1996, Panchayat extension of scheduled areas, we have told that we need to take permission of Gram Sabha. And you know the Kutumbashree model of Kerala. Kerala is the one place where the Gram Sabha and the democratic decentralization under 73rd and 74th Amendment Act has been the strongest one. One Coca-Cola plant was not allowed to come up in the Kerala state. So all these things, like we have to empower them, we have to say that in the matter of corporate governance, it is not only the interest of shareholder or the company or the board of director or the management or the government is important. It is also the interest of the community, the people, the nature, the vendors, the suppliers. See, for example, insolvency and bankruptcy code. that we have enacted recently to deal with the issue of NPAs, non-performing assets. What we have done there, we have tried to address the interest of everyone's, vendors, suppliers, and then who are the small investors in the company, big investors in the company. So this way we have to look after the interest of all the stakeholders, else there will not be corporate sustainability. Even if we do not take care of the interest of one element, we may not be going for the corporate sustainability in a long term. So that's it. Next we will be dealing with the benefits of corporate governance.